you.
It's not on. Mic check, mic check. I bet you all thought I was going to do a little rap then, but I'm not. I'm just here to introduce our final session of the day. I'm Naveen from Creative Equals. I'm an inclusion consultant. I'm mixed race. I'm almost 40. Well, as long as I think I look young for my age anyway, that's all that matters. What else? I'm wearing an orange two-piece, which I now realize makes me look like a felon, but I'm rocking it. So yeah, as well as being an inclusion consultant, I'm also a DJ. I've been DJing for 18 years now. I've seen a lot of changes, the evolution of tech, the rise of the social media DJ, and dare I say it, those annoying mashups that we see on TikTok. Please, if you know a DJ, tell them that not every song needs to be remixed. We do not need to hear Taylor Swift over an Amapiano track. It's just not needed. But yeah, one of the constants is the fact that I've experienced gender bias. So I'm really excited for this next session, where our panel will be telling us why we need to balance the mix in media and music. So please welcome Nikki Kemp from Creative Brief and the rest of our panel, which will come on stage as we play a video, I believe.
You can name 3 female artists, right? How about 3 female music producers? Struggling? That's because women make up only 3% of producers. This isn't just numbers. It's a creative crisis. When women's voices are muted, we lose the unique power of their stories. But imagine what can happen when diversity thrives. It's time to balance the mix. In music production, that's when each element contributes without dominating or getting lost. Introducing 30 by 30, our mission to increase the number of female producers from 3% to 1/3 by 2030. We pledge to transform the industry. We're here to advocate for positive change by raising awareness and calling on the industry to set new standards. We elevate underrepresented talent from the studio to the spotlight through education, mentorship, and career connections. And we celebrate diverse voices, securing more seats at the table through industry-wide opportunities. Together, we can move the needle. Now let's make some noise. Pledge your support to balance the mix, because when music reflects everyone, it connects everyone.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Nikki Kemp. I am a 45-year-old white woman with a really colourful dress on and a massive smile because of all the stubborn optimism in this room today. So every single advertising soundtrack you commission or contribute to has the power to really move the dial on some of the data we've just seen. Now, we know that women are the oxygen of change in our industry, and I have 2 phenomenal women who are going to share what we can do to move the dial today. So Becky Wixon is the founder of Balance the Mix and a creative music producer. She's a huge advocate for diversity in the music industry. She previously performed in an all-female rock band, and she started her career in creative industries, so she really understands all aspects of the ecosystem. And then next to her is Jamilia Walters, who's also known as Jamz Supernova. She has an incredible, squiggly creative career. She's a DJ, television presenter, podcaster, and record label owner. And she's been described as one of the leading next generation's DJs in the UK. And side note, we're going to get to see her play later. So to kick off, I'd love to get a show of hands. Who on the panel and in the room thinks that it is acceptable that just 3% of music producers are women? 3%. Put your hand up if you think that's unacceptable. Shocking stat. So to kick off, Becky, I'd really love to get your view on this because just 14% of songwriters are women, 22% of paid artists are women. These statistics are truly mind-blowing. So could you share a visual description of yourself and then just share why it's important to move the dial and why this should be an issue that matters to brands?
Hi everyone, my name is Becky, pronouns are she, her. I am a white, brunette, queer woman. Not sure if you can see the queer, maybe you can. And I'm wearing white trousers and a beige waistcoat. And to answer your question, music is one of the most powerful storytelling tools that we have. It makes us feel, it makes us connect, it makes us remember. And for marketing, that power is undeniable. But as we've seen in the video, behind the scenes, those who are creating the music are wildly imbalanced. And that's in inclusion, but also in value. So only 5% of musicians make a sustainable income from their music. And 90% of streaming revenue, which is most of the revenue in the music industry these days, goes to 1% of the artists. So there's a real issue of representation and fairness. But we know how powerful music is. It actually represents and is present in 86% of our campaigns. We're in a sound-on era. Music is powering every stream and every screen, from ads in TV and radio, podcasts, social. So it's a real opportunity for musicians to collaborate with brands. So it's absolutely something that brands should be considering.
Brilliant, thank you. And Jamz, I'd love to bring you in here. Could you share a visual description, and could you also give us a flavour as to how this lack of balance has impacted you as an artist in your career?
Yeah, hi, I'm Jamz, 5'4", black woman, braids, wearing a grey dress and big boots. I think it's actually a really hard question to answer because I think, you know, when I was about 8 years old, my mom pulled me aside and basically said, you're black and you're female, you'll have to work twice as hard to get an equal footing, just to get an equal footing. So I think I already had that in the back of my head when I was starting out. And even though I had played football till I was 16 and then I had chosen music after that, so they'd always been quite male-dominated spaces. But I always had in the back of my head, I'm black and I'm female, I have to work twice as hard, I have to walk in every room with my head held high. So there had kind of, I guess you don't look back and think about I don't look at the paycheck and say I'm not getting paid as much as this person. I haven't looked at the opportunities that I have missed out on because I've been so focused on getting to where I'm getting to. And I think when you are selling yourself and you are the brand, there's a little bit of control there, a little bit. And I think with the rise of social media, the rise of DIY culture, I was able to open up different doors that maybe not in a traditional sense, but I was able to create other doors or to create noise in different ways. But I find those statistics really shocking. So I feel like I can't always talk to my own experience because I haven't stopped to process maybe what would have been those hurdles. But when I think about supporting other artists, supporting other women in my field of music, the stark realization that things were unfair was probably when I started to work in a major label industry and sitting in a meeting and suddenly not being the only woman in the meeting, being the only black woman in the meeting, and suddenly wanting to say something and not being able to get in, or not having the space to say something, being at the table, not having the space to have autonomy at the table, being given a chair but no space to make decisions, and then hearing the way that women as artists were talked about and described and pitted against each other, or there could only be one, or is she really that good, or can she sing that well, but does she really make the music? Is there a ghost producer who's writing? Yeah, but is it just because she's pretty? You know, all these sort of comments that you've suddenly in a locker room. So when I think about those statistics, and I think about people that do have autonomy and the agency to change those statistics, I feel like we're kind of at a sort of a dissonance there. So I think that has sort of shaped the world that I wanted to create. So from working in those rooms, I was like, right, okay, well, I'm going to set up a a drinks mixer. All we're going to do is we're going to be women that come together and drink that are in music. You know, it's as simple as that. Coming together, drink, sharing what we do, connecting with each other. And it was called Flex. And then I started a label. And it'd be like, okay, it's really important for me to look at the types of people that I'm signing. If I'm signing women, what sort of additional nurturing do I need to do if they want to produce and they want to be in the electronic space? What additional support do I need to give to them for the space and time for them to be able to create the music and for them to be confident in doing so? So I think it's definitely impacted what I play, and how I spread my support.
Jamz, that's really inspiring to hear, and the work that you've done to sort of help take away some of the barriers that you've faced. It really underlines the power of storytelling, really, to bring to life some of these statistics that we can collectively become a bit numb to. And Becky, I'd love to bring you in here, because many brands, and there's lots of brilliant brands in this room, see themselves in the business of creating and shaping culture. So when it comes to using music in our storytelling, and it's such a huge part of advertising, you know, we saw that with the Beats campaign mentioned earlier, like, how do we ensure that brands are only telling part of the story, or actually, how do they tell the full story?
I think music is one of the most direct routes to culture, and that's a real asset for a brand to harness. I think in a campaign, music is often the most kind of visceral part. It can often hit first and it lasts longer, it has an imprint. But if we are only sourcing talent from a very narrow pool, then we are limiting the stretch of culture that we're accessing and also the creativity. And in the words of Ali Hannon, who makes the work shapes the work. If we are not including the voices of those we're trying to reach in the production of our campaigns, then we're at a real risk of communicating inauthentically. So it's really, really important to consider that. I'd also say that DEI often isn't considered through a music lens. And speaking of Ali, we did a research project with Creative Equals last year to explore this with brands. Do brands think about music and DEI? And what we learned was brands kind of think of music as being cultural anyway, so they don't think they need to put much effort into making sure that it's inclusive. But as we've seen, behind the curtain, behind the scenes, we've got a lot of catching up to do. And I think what's interesting is to see other realms of production where I think brands and agencies are putting effort into making sure that it's more inclusive in terms of film production and scripting and casting, but music is often left out, which, to the point of culture, we know how resonant it can be. I think it's really important to consider it through a DEI lens.
Jamz, bringing you in here, because that's such an important theme, who makes the work, shapes the work. I'd really love to get your view, because one of the byproducts of how we exist at the moment is perhaps all the songs we're never going to get to hear, we're never going to get to dance to. So if we don't create the space for more talent, more diverse talent, what are we missing out on?
I mean, I think people sometimes think of DEI as like it's a morally good thing that you should do. You should do it. You shouldn't have to do it, but you should. But I think realistically, it's bottom line. Yeah. You're more diverse, you make more money. It's simple. You know, you reach more people, you have more stories to tell. So I think we kind of have to reframe why we do DEI as well. You know, it's not just for the good of our, souls. It's just better in general. You know. And I think I love the idea of obviously hearing all these talks and seeing the wide range of what diversity includes is also really important as well. Because the subject matter doesn't relate to you, doesn't mean that you can't listen and you can't learn. Like, I play music from all around the world. You know, it initially starts from the Black experience, from the African experience, from the diasporic experience, and then it just permeates into all different spaces around the world. But why wouldn't I want to hear from a Thai drummer and her experience of how the drummers moved? And, why not? Why would that not enrich me as a creative as well, and allow me to make better work? So I think it's really important that we hear so many different, types of stories for the betterment of the bottom line and for our own creativity. I think what we can do to go forward is doing the extra work, doing the due diligence, and not being scared to check in with yourself. when we talk about the patriarchy, but we kind of sometimes talk about it like one-sided, we have to unlearn, as women of the patriarchy, we have to unlearn misogyny, toxic masculinity is toxic to men as well. There's so many different, all these terms that we also have within us that have been ingrained in us that we have to also unlearn. So when I'm looking at my radio show, I'm thinking about the music that I'm playing, I have a duty to be inclusive. I have a duty to think about, hold on a minute, I just played 4 guys back to back. I think I can mix it up here, or actually, who are the guests that we've had on the show? And I was, who are the people that we're featuring? And it takes a little bit extra work. It takes a little bit of extra digging, but what comes out of it is a better radio show.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important. Another thing is kind of the time and the nurturing, because when I think about working with women, specifically in electronic music, women that have come through electronic music, the reason why maybe the statistics shock me is because sometimes you're in a bubble.
Yeah.
So I think 6 years ago, the percentage was 2% of women were labeled as producers, so now 3%, so 1% in 6 years. I don't know if that's good or bad, but in my circle, I'm around so many women that produce. I'm around so many women that create music and that DJ. But am I in a bubble? Is that how we've come up? Are some women not labeled as producers because they're more labeled as singer-songwriters and they have to overtly say that they are a producer? But I think what I've learned in terms of electronic music is the starting point is not the same. If a boy is given boy toys, we're changing, but a boy is given boy toys and a boy goes on to play PlayStation and there's gaming, there's a next step into music production. If a girl is given dolls and and beauty stuff, there's not necessarily that natural progression.
Yeah.
So I think that's the starting point. So a lot of the women that I'm meeting are starting to produce later on. And that comes with a different level of confidence. If you've been producing in your bedroom since you were 11 on your PlayStation, there's a different level of confidence of you picking it up when you're 21. So I have to have a different kind of care and a different duty of care to the women that I'm working with. They might say to me, Jamz, it takes me a bit longer to make tunes, no worries, take as long as you want. Tell me when you're ready. Let's just keep talking, no pressure.
That community point is such an important point, and one to sort of wrap this conversation up on, because this community in this room of brand builders is a really, really powerful one. So Becky, I'd love to turn it back to you, because I asked at the beginning if that 3% stat gave anyone in the room the rage. Who would like to use that rage and perhaps turn it into change? Is anyone wanting to change their playlists, change their advertising tracks? Becky, what can we do?
So I've got 3 practical takeaways for you. So the first is to start by auditing your sound. Figure out where you're at. Do you know who made the music in your last campaign? Do you know who produced it? Find that out. Is it inclusive? Is it fair? And Balance the Mix can actually help you with that. We've created a tool which we are launching today at Rise, and it's called the EQ Index. And it's a framework for measuring the fairness and the inclusion in your campaigns. And it does that by tracking the representation, so who's behind it, the fairness, how they are credited, how they are compensated, and also the resonance, how well it's connecting with your values and connecting with your audience. And we're actually giving away 5 reports for free today. There's a QR code, which is going to be behind me, so you can scan that to get access. There's also some flyers spread on the table with the QR code on the back, so you can access that there too. So if you're curious, you can find out for yourself. So that's the first thing. The second is to set inclusion benchmarks. Just like anything else in your supply chain, music needs benchmarks too. So back in March for International Women's Day, and we mentioned it in the video, we launched a pledge called 30 by 30. And it's a call to action to the industry. It's a mission to increase the proportion of female and gender-expansive producers 30% by 2030. So get involved, join us. It makes, as we've discussed, better work. It's more inclusive, it reaches your audience. And lastly, I would say invest in untapped talent. Think about it early on in the process and be more mindful and intentional with the music that you're using. Think about who's behind it. Think about how it's going to connect with your audiences. And I would close by saying that, as many have mentioned today, it's quite a scary time for inclusion, but music has always been a means to bring us together, right? It's always been a way to unify. So think about that and balance the mix. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you very much. We actually have someone who's going to put some of the great talent into action, and Becky's going to introduce our artists.
Yes, we're in for a treat. So I would love to introduce you to A.K. Patterson. She is going to play a song for us. She is a London-based singer-songwriter whose sound blends raw emotion with poetic storytelling. Praised by Guy Garvey and spotlighted by Johnny Flynn in The Guardian, she's toured with Alt J, she's performed at the Royal Albert Hall, she's worked with Mercury Prize winner Charlie Andrew, and she's performing a track for us today from her acclaimed EP, which has been championed by Bastille, Radio X, and The Independent. So let's give her a round of applause.
I'm Patterson. I am a cisgender white woman, and today I'm wearing a black leather waistcoat and some crop jeans and some platform shoes. I'm going to do a song called Jailbird that I wrote after my old job working in men's prisons in South London came out a few weeks ago. You could probably turn me down both channels in my wedge if you want to. Thank you very much. You can turn it down way more. Yeah, just turn me down in my... Turn my wedge down, please. All good? I just need it all down in this one. Sorry, guys. That's way better. Everyone okay? We got that. Can you still hear me? Great. Okay, here's Jailbird.
Echoing deep within the prison, I sing for the men behind the bars. And as each one contemplates his freedom, he steals piece of my heart. Joey's been away since he was 18. Got in trouble with the fire brigade. Now he's building barrel wagons made of matchsticks just to pass the time away. Well, he flew in as a boy. He believes he'll always be a jailbird. Antonio's in solitary confinement for stealing the truncheon from the screws. Back in college, he was always hailed the class clown, 'cause his smile knew how to bend the rules. Well, he flew in as a boy. He believes he'll always be a jailbird. Robb reads Dostoevsky on the top bunk, has made a home of 58 square feet, says, out there I'm just a captive of the free world, waiting for the trouble to catch me. Well, he flew in as a boy, plays with guns instead of toys, was the last thing Daddy left before he died in self-defense, was just doing what he must when he blew the bank doors off. And who can judge a wounded jailbird? I'll be here same time next week. All these promises I'll keep, 'cause scarce the wind blows in for jailbirds. Thank you very much.